Hi, and welcome to Turra & Company, the mother-daughter podcast about everything. Our mission is to make herstory, aka history, not by going viral, but by doing something that has never been done before in our family. Whether we have 2 listeners or 2 million listeners, we are bringing you our very best, and hopefully we are learning and growing together in the process. Now let's enter into the Turra & Company experience and create herstory, aka history together. Welcome to Turra & Company.
Hey. Hello, hi. What's up?
Sounds good. Hey, I like it. Hi company. We are back with a banger.
How y'all doing?
Is everybody doing good? Is it a
Wait,
good
hold
week?
on. I told someone that I had a podcast. Every once in a while, I get new students. So every 6 months, I gotta tell the students that I have a podcast.
Absolutely.
And
promotion. I like it.
Absolutely. And let's just talk about it real quick. The big hot story right now that's going around, at least what I've been talking about, is who did I marry? You know about who did I marry?
I was going to ask you who
Risa
TF
Tisa?
did I marry? And I was going to ask you because we hadn't talked
Tyler
about
Perry
it.
movie that needs to be turned into a Tyler Perry movie. Now,
I haven't bookmarked.
Have you listened to it?
I haven't listened to it because I said because of how many parts it is and because of how in-depth it is.
Yeah.
This is going to be, I put my phone on AirPlay and I put it on my TV, turned on my auto scroll, and get some popcorn and just give it my full attention from the way people
hilarious.
are talking about it.
And when you do call me, because I have it bookmarked specifically because I want to set aside.
Because that is all I'm hearing is who TF did I marry? I want to know who she married.
Is it Tessa Ressa? Well,
Risa.
Tessa Risa. Because I thought it was Tessa Ressa. I was like, no, that's an interesting name.
I keep hearing Tessa Risa.
Okay, Tessa Risa. That seems right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just didn't know nobody was Tessa Risa.
But, just to kind of piggyback, and it sucks that, we don't know it, so we can't really dive too deep into it.
After we,
but
we'll follow up.
We'll do a little follow up. But word on the street is there's something about the Mercedes, and I heard that Mercedes is reaching out and giving her the car that she wanted. I don't know.
Okay,
shut up.
Because she wanted a blue, I think it was an X3 with cognac interior. That's the only reason I remember it.
Right.
On one of the episodes, she said that.
She talks about, and I guess he must have promised it to her or something. So
now Mercedes is going to give her one.
Mercedes is going to give her one. I don't know.
That is so
we'll
interesting.
See. Yeah, it's
I
crazy.
love stories like that. I hope that happens to us one day. I love stories like that for other people because I want stuff like that to happen to us. So when you tell people you have a podcast, you told the new student, what happened?
That's she asked me, I was telling them that I had to record an episode today, and so they asked me, what are you going to talk about? And then she
started talking about that.
She was like, are you going to talk about that? And I was like, well, I don't know.
I mean, because that's not really our vibe.
Yeah.
Our
really
bangers don't go like that.
Not like that, but yeah. We will go.
Our
we will
bangers,
listen and we'll come back. We'll report back.
The thing is, because you know what? I really am very intentional about not doing, I don't want us to be celebrity focused. I don't want us to be
gossip focused.
Yeah, because that to me is hype, right? That to me is hype. I really, that's why I didn't put us as entertainment in the podcast genre. I picked social and culture because I try to do shows, or I think we do shows that do self-help.
Yeah, I feel like that's close. Or at least relatable,
it's self-help because we bring up a topic, and that topic is usually something to enhance your life.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's so when you tell people you have a podcast, let them know we don't do true crime. I
just tell them it's a lifestyle. Because
it is. That is so true.
It's a lifestyle podcast.
That's true. So fun fact to piggyback on that, I went to a retreat for my job, right? And I too tell people that I have a podcast. I tell them, but I'm not like, oh my God, I have a podcast to everybody I meet. But if we have something where they say, tell us something interesting about yourself, then I mention, hey, I have a podcast. So I did that probably almost a year ago in one of our little breakout sessions. And there was a young lady in that session that said, oh, what's the name of it? She got the information. I didn't think nothing of it because people do that all the time, but you don't necessarily know that they listen. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this person doesn't work in my department. So when we went to this retreat, we had a icebreaker, like a little cocktail hour. And it was so cute because, you know, I'm meeting everybody and because I work remote. So I haven't met all the people in person until this point. So I go up to this young lady and she says, hey, and I'm going to say her name because I want to give her a shout out. She says, my name is Mimi. And I was like, Mimi, I don't think I've had much interaction with you. She said, you haven't, but I listened to your podcast. She said, I was recently diagnosed and had to have some treatments. And while I was having the treatments, I listened to your podcast. She said, and you don't know, but just to hear you and your girls giggling and just laughing took me to a different space. It took me somewhere else where I wasn't thinking about the treatment. I was in with you guys laughing. So shout out to Mimi. And she is doing great, by the way. Treatment went well. Shout out to Mimi. I love you. And I'm so glad that you are not doing treatments anymore, or don't have to have the treatments anymore. And we're so glad that you shared that story with me because it was very inspirational. And it gave me, sometimes you do this show and you don't get much interaction, so you don't know if you're hitting people, right? Mm-hmm. So when you get feedback like that live and in person, it just melts your heart. So Mimi, you are our super listener of the week, and we love that.
Clap, clap, clap.
We love that. So anyway, let's get started with today's. What we talking about? We are not talking about Teresa.
Not this week.
Not this week. I mean, we can talk about it a little bit. Once we listen, I don't think I have the energy.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's
you need the energy.
Like, that's what I'm saying. And because of how in depth it is, that's why I don't think I can just watch it on my phone. That's what I'm saying. I gotta put it on a big screen and just really
you're gonna have to
strategy away.
You're gonna have to have a strategy around that,
right? You know, I do got some laundry to fold, so maybe I'll put it on.
Oh my God, I'm so rooting for that. I am so rooting for that. Anytime you talk about putting away your laundry, get excited. So anyway, today's show is about self-talk. And if you don't know what self-talk is the talk that you talk to yourself, right?
That little voice in your head.
That little voice. It's a little bit more than your voice in the head, because the voice in your head is like your conscious. But this is something happens. What do you start talking to yourself about that thing that happened? Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. So today's show is negative and positive self-talk. And so the way that we're going to tackle this subject is, when things happen to you, does your self-talk automatically go negative? Does your self-talk automatically go positive? And then I'm going to add in a different component. Does your self-talk go in for the fight? So I'm going to say, when things happen to me, my self-talk goes into fight mode. So
I don't think anyone had to really guess about it.
Yeah. I mean, for the people who don't know you, would you mind elaborating?
Like a little bit of a given, but like for the people who are around you on a daily,
we know this.
I don't think that was...
But I sometimes have negative, right? So let's talk about the negative self-talk. And the thing that I really want to pass on to the people, because I think a lot of people struggle with the negative self-talk, because it's kind of hard, right? Something happens and you think, are they right? Like, say you're in a bad relationship, right? A relationship with a guy or a girl, and the guy or girl gives you some feedback. Well, we've said it before. Feedback is just that. It doesn't. You don't have to take it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be true. Mm-hmm. That's your opinion. Mm-hmm. So let's tell this story real quick. Today we were talking to Neil. We always got to bring Neil in. Neil is our fourth host. Y'all just don't see him and you don't hear him. But we tell the stories for you. So today we were talking about something, and I was like, Neil, when you're at work, do you make mistakes? He was like, I don't make mistakes. And I was like, okay, sure.
He's like, it's their opinion.
Well, then I was like, when you were in your previous position, did you used to make mistakes, and did people used to come to you and say, hey, you've made a mistake? And he said, yeah, but I always felt like it was in their opinion. And we were like, me and Ariel were looking at him like, He was like, because it wasn't true.
IYO, it was IYO,
right.
in your opinion.
It was. And we were looking at him like every time he was like, yeah, it was their opinion that
subjective.
I was. Right. It was like, we were like, dude. But in that moment, I got it. Because what self-talk is, if you are really, really in tune to it, is a coping mechanism. It is how you talk yourself off the ledge, right? When something crazy happens or when somebody gives you feedback or, a disastrous thing happens, you have to have a certain self-talk. Now, most people, to be human, go to the negative and say, especially if it's negative, if it's a negative feedback or a negative situation, I think people automatically go for the negative and say, well, maybe they're right, blah, 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 blah. It's human to do that.
Yeah.
But don't stay there. And it's therapeutic to go negative. Don't stay there. That's when it gets toxic.
Yeah.
Then you have to find some way to say, but wait a minute. You got to start kind of breaking down the layers. I did this. I did that. I did this. No, they're not right. In their opinion. So I wanted to tell that story about Neil because it's so funny to me how his coping mechanism was to say, that's their opinion. But it's so true. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
It's there. Somebody is giving their narrative of you. Do they know you? How long have the people known you that's talking this talk? That's saying stuff to you? You only know me but 2 seconds. You don't get to talk to me.
Or for like a portion of my day.
Yeah. You don't get to speak to what you don't get to tell me who I am. Thank you. Appreciate it. But I'm not. So when I say I go fight, when people come to me and give me something, say they give me feedback, the first thing I always do is try to identify, where is that coming from? Because not everybody's opinion of you is coming from a good place.
Mm-hmm.
What if somebody's jealous of you? Mm-hmm. Do you think if somebody's jealous of you, you have something that they don't have? Do you think that what they're trying to speak to you is going to be positive? It's not going to be positive because they're jealous and it's coming from a bad place. So I always try to say, is this person jealous of me? Because I always think everybody's jealous.
Everyone. Every single person that comes in contact with mom.
In negative.
Everyone that comes in negative.
Everybody that comes in negative. Because I have a really nice life. I have a nice life. People get jealous. I'm just saying. You can, hey, don't play with me.
I didn't say anything.
Don't play with it. Don't play with it.
Don't play with it.
Don't play with it. Don't play with it. Don't play with it. So anyway, so that's what we're talking about today. How do you process self-talk? So who wants to go first? Ariel, you want to talk about it?
Sure, why not?
So where do you instantly go when something happens, good, bad, or indifferent? Where does your self-talk take you? What road do you go down?
So this is something that I've said before, that I've talked about in the past a little bit before, and that I'm working on, is I go to the negative. Like that is my go-to.
That's your go-to.
And it's not my go-to when like someone says something positive, because when somebody
of course,
says, yeah, when they say something positive, I'm kind of just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, but it's like a neutral place.
But let me ask you this real quick: when it's a positive, are you able to accept it?
No.
Okay.
Not immediately.
Talk about that. Because I think a lot of people struggle with that. I think a lot of people, when they hear positive stuff, they don't always let it resonate and let it hit home.
One of the things that I struggled with for a long time, and what you just said made me think about this, is I used to struggle with imposter syndrome.
Oh, okay. You used to think you shouldn't be there?
A lot of times I was like,
Why?
Of times. I can't explain to you why. It's kind of just where I was. It happened a lot when I was in college.
You thought you weren't supposed to be in college?
It's not that I didn't feel like I wasn't supposed to be in college. It was more like I felt like I I've always had like friends who are smart, right? And I've always had.
That's what you get for hanging around. See, I hang around people who are like less smart than me. So then that makes me look amazingly smart.
Like I've always had friends that are like, to me, smarter than me. I've always and that's kind of always how I wanted to be. I always wanted to surround myself with people who knew more about different things than I did so that I could learn more.
Yeah.
But one of the, and it worked out pretty well because I have friends who are really smart and do a lot of cool things and all of that good stuff. But one of the trade-offs that I found with that is you have this weird, or at least I did, I had like this weird feeling of almost inadequacy. And not necessarily because they were making me feel inadequate, but more of me questioning like, should I be here? Should I be in this conversation? Do I know enough about this topic to really speak to it?
See, that's why you got to get some other friends that ain't so smart.
Right. And
I'm not saying dumb. And when I say not so smart, I'm not calling anybody dumb.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there's levels to smartness, right?
Yeah.
There's levels to intelligence. So I'm not trying to put people in a box. Usually when I've noticed I hang around the smarter crowd, I'm putting up the air quotes, smarter crowd, I notice they do get off on trying to make you feel a certain way.
Yeah, a lot of
and
times.
not as smart as them. Because they've been riding on their smarts and intelligence for so long that I think that they get a high off of that. And I think it translates sometimes into, well, you're not as smart as me. The smartest people to me are people who are smart and try to pass it on to you. Don't try to use it against you. Some smart people try to lord it against you. I knew that. Everybody knows that. How come you don't know it? That's a lot of the smart, intelligent people I've run into. That's their attitude. But then you have this small, unique sect of the intelligent crowd that says, you didn't know that. Let me teach you. And that, I love that because they're bringing you with them. And that's the difference, right? If you hanging with the smart people that's bringing you with them, you won't feel the imposter, I think.
Right. And what's interesting to me is I knew people who were like, to me, they were smart, but they were like, no, I'm not. It's not that big of a deal.
False modesty.
And it wasn't. And what's funny is it isn't like, it is false modesty, but it's not false modesty. To them, right? Because like to me, like there's like the things that they can think of or the things that they do is so like, I could never.
You're just so into that. It kills me that Ariel is so into the intelligence thing. Like, I don't care about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't either.
It doesn't
float
my boat.
There, but it's always been there for me. Like even when I was younger, like I always wanted to be around. I've always wanted to be around intelligent people. Like that's always been
a thing.
That's always where I felt the most comfortable.
Yeah,
is being around comfortable people. It didn't happen until I was in college, the imposter syndrome thing that happened of me being like, should I really, be friend? How am I able to be friends with these people? How am I able to carry on these conversations with these people who are so much more intelligent than me, know more about different areas than me, and think so just more creatively or just more vividly than I do? Like, how do I deserve to be in that kind of room, in that kind of space?
So how did you get around it, or did you ever get around that?
I don't think I got around it in my professional life as well as I think I did. But I think I got around it. I think the reason I was able to get around it in my personal life is because I realized after getting to know like the friends that I have or the friends that I made in college, is I was like, oh yeah, no, I get it now. I see that, yeah, you're smarter in these areas, but you're not smarter in other areas, and you're a person. Like,
so your self-talk kind of led you to evaluate who they really were.
Yeah, and kind of just remember like, oh, just because someone knows more about a certain topic than you do in a particular area doesn't necessarily mean that they're better than you or higher than you.
Or that they know everything.
Yeah.
Because everybody has a defect. Everybody has something, Achilles heel, as they say.
Right. And that was one of the key things that I learned of like, just having through the course of knowing people and having friends is everybody's got something.
Everybody's got something. And so that's that fight thing that I was talking about. So to me, when somebody says something to me, I break them down in my mind, and I'm like, well, she can't even pick her shoes to match her pants. So who is she? See, I go for the jugular. I start attacking in my mind. I don't attack you personally outward, but I start attacking you in my mind. And just that attack in my mind makes me feel better.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me say, well, they don't know what they're talking about. They can't even tie their shoes, you know.
Silly stuff like that.
It ain't even silly, or just the reality of it.
Right.
Because it makes me think, who are you?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you to say that to me? You know, it's a choice, right? So think about this. What you say to other people is a choice. You have a choice to say something positive to somebody, even when you have to tell them something negative, right?
Just because you're saying something negative doesn't mean you have to say it in a mean way.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people need to take a step back and realize that you can deliver something that might not be as positive in a concerned way. When I was a manager a long time ago. And of course, when you're a manager, you have to, you know, Chelsi knows this, you have to sometimes take people to the side and you have to give them reprimand every once in a while.
I do that now, and I'm not even a manager. Yeah.
Yeah. But you are kind of a manager because you're an instructor. That's a management level.
Yeah.
So when I was doing that, it was very important to me to always make them feel, even though I'm delivering this not so good news, I always wanted them to feel like I'm in this with you. I'm not against you. Even though I'm sitting on the other side of the table delivering this information, I didn't ever want to be hard, like, this is it. This is what you got to do and better do it. Because to me, who wants to be talked to like that? So I always made sure that my talk was soft, that it was compassionate, that I said to them, what do you think we need to do? So they knew I was in it with them to change. Now, at the end of the day, the onus was on them to do what they needed to do. But I wanted them to know, this ain't me against you. This is me and you. And it used to come out like I very rarely, every once in a while, I would have a bad interaction. But it's because those people didn't know, I think, how to take any kind of feedback or criticism. So nothing I did would have worked. But for the most part, it worked really well. And I always wanted them to walk away from it like, man, this is a crazy experience, right? When you have to put somebody on a final notice, right? But I wanted people to know, you can turn this around, like, but you got to do it, you know? So Chelsi, speaking of being a manager and having to do what you do, how does your negative and self-talk come through first? Does it come through negative? Does it come through positive? Do you fight? What do you do?
I think for me, it kind of depends on the situation. You know, like it's a case-by-case basis for me.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say most of the time, it's like I don't sit and dwell in it for very long. I'm like a day or two, like, okay, like this is what happened, and maybe go into that negative mindset, but maybe just dip my toe in it just for like a second.
Not your toe.
And then I come back out and I'm like, okay, like whatever it is, what it is. But like I said, kind of like on a case-by-case basis. Like if it's something like coming from my manager, like my boss, then yeah, I'm going to take a couple of days and be like really like sit and be like, dang. Because in certain situations, and for more specifically, like with this job that I currently have now, because for a while I didn't think that I was qualified to have the job that I have now, just because of how early on in my career that I got it.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of job insecurity. It was every couple of thoughts I was thinking, oh my gosh, like, all right, this is it. Today's the day I'm walking in and I'm leaving and I'm never coming back. I make the joke that every time I go into my boss's office, no matter what, if it's just I have a question, I always sit there for a little bit and I'm like, okay, do you have any feedback for me? Like, is there anything I'm doing? Like, you know, like,
right.
And it's mainly just because I think I'm one of those kinds of like employees that just needs to like, even on like just normal days, I just need
you need to hear.
I just need to
you
hear
need kudos.
Yeah, I just need to hear just
Me
like
too.
you're
I'm like
doing a
that
good
too.
job, you know? Because then after a while,
Girl,
I'll start
you're doing a good job. That's what I need to hear.
Exactly. So I'm very like open about that, like with my boss, and she knows that, and she does her best at giving that to me.
Yeah.
Like, she's very much like if I go to her with a problem, she's like, okay, this is what we're going to do to fix it. I'm going to talk to this person if I need to talk to this person. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I just want to make sure that I'm giving you the tools that you need to succeed.
So she has your back.
Yeah, absolutely.
She has your back. And that makes a difference.
It really does.
But what happens if you... So that's professionally.
Yes.
Let's talk about personally.
Yes.
Friends.
Yeah.
Doing something crazy.
Yeah.
How does that self-talk go?
I think it's one of those, like, I'm going to just keep it pushing. You know?
So it depends on the level of the friend for me.
Like, just real quick, something that I'm just, that's been coming up for me is not getting invited to places. That is like a really big
So this
thing.
your hangout crew and you're not getting invited?
No, just I'm hanging out with my crew, but then maybe someone in the crew gets left out, and not intentionally or not not anything intentional.
Yeah.
But then it creates a rift in the system.
Yeah.
And creates tension
because the person has probably had negative self-talk.
Yes.
Probably said, well, why didn't they invite me?
Right.
There's nothing wrong with me.
Right,
I should have went.
And that it's something out of that was done out of malicious intent.
Yeah.
Which completely isn't the case, you know? It's one of those, like, in the moment.
It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just want to hang out with this person or that person.
Everyone has a different vibe.
Yes.
And there are sometimes there's a certain vibe that you just want to be around.
Exactly.
And there's no right or wrong or issue with that.
Yeah.
You know, it's just depending on how you feel in that day.
But I'm going to tell you, if I hang with you and then all the time and then you start hanging with other folks.
Yeah, I see where you're going with
baby,
this.
I get upset about that. Because like why don't I get to go?
Right, like why wasn't I?
And I don't have the wherewithal of the self-talk to talk myself out of it. I instantly go negative. I don't even want to be your friend no more because I'm like, you must not be my friend because why didn't you invite me?
Yeah, and see, and I don't know if necessarily to that extent that's where my brain goes.
Let me ask you this though.
Does. I'm so bad.
But let me ask Chelsi this. Have you ever been left out of this crew you're talking about?
Or
you always going. You always but I'm just saying, you always invited. So you kind of don't know how it feels, right? Because you in the always crew.
You're part of the planning committee usually.
You're not in the
I'm the head of the committee.
Exactly. So think of it like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Think of it as this group one day doing it to you. Mm-hmm. What would you do? I mean, what would your brain? Because I'm telling you, if it's somebody that's real cool with me, like my bestie, and then you go and with these other people, and I don't get to go. Because when I used to live in Michigan, me and my bestie, we used to do, when I say everything together. Like anything you invited her to, I was invited. Anything you invited me to, we would just show up like that. Like, we ain't gonna tell you we both coming, but we coming. Mm-hmm. And it got to the point where people just knew, if you invite me, you invited her.
When you see her, you see me.
Exactly.
When you see me, you see her.
I mean, it doesn't happen now because we're not in the same town. But back when I lived in the same town, got it.
But let me kind of tell you something. For a while, it kind of was where I was that person, but it was kind of before, the group that I'm with now developed into what it was when it was like early, and there were things that I wasn't getting invited to, at first I maybe
was you feeling some type of way?
I was just like, oh, well, that's a little weird that I didn't get asked about that, but it just kind of, for me, it was just like. It wasn't anything that like I focused on. I was just like, okay, maybe I'll get invited one day. Maybe I'll do what I need to do, or I'll be around in the social setting for me to be invited. But it wasn't like a big.
It wasn't a big deal.
It still
to
wasn't
you?
like a big deal to me.
Well, and do you attribute that to you learned how to cope with it?
Yeah, I think so.
So you was able to take your self-talk and go, I didn't get invited, but oh well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but some people it's deeper than that.
Absolutely,
it's deeper than that. So
absolutely.
But also with some people, It's on them because the reactions that you have are on you. So if that situation did happen with me, if I, didn't get invited, friend invited everybody else and went with the other people, I would feel some type of way. But maturity and emotional intelligence tells us that we need to self-evaluate, right? And so we need to say, okay, I didn't get invited. That doesn't mean they don't like me.
Right.
Because some people go instantly there. Oh, they didn't invite me. They must not like me.
Or they're upset with me.
Yeah, it's not that. And so that's where the self-talk comes in, where you got to be on the right page and you got to kind of start saying, hey, it's not that. And if you really feel that it's that, have a conversation.
Have a non-defensive conversation.
I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of people. I'm sorry. I got to get this out. I'm sick of people having issues and not conversating
and not
about
addressing it.
It's not okay, people.
You're not standing on business.
It's
and
not
what
okay.
did we say our first show of 2024?
Standing
is that
on
we
your
were
business.
standing on business.
Yeah, and that's not standing on business.
No.
Because standing on business, listen, mama gonna tell you, standing on business in this particular situation is communication. If you feeling some type of way about something that I've done and you can't get your self-talk to go to the right place and you can't bear down on it, then you need to come and say, let's talk. I feel some type of way because you didn't get invited. And then I say, this is why you didn't get invited. Oh, girl. And then you hear the answer, and I guarantee 9 times out of 10, you're going to be like, oh, okay.
I didn't even think about it like that.
You did, because your self-talk took you instantly to negative land, and you stayed there.
Yeah.
So I think the point that we're making on this show is take it to negative if you need to, but don't
sit in it. Don't marinate in it.
Yeah.
Like I said, just dip your toe in it and then just come right out.
Yeah.
Be like, that's a little too cold for me. I don't want to be there.
Yeah. And then if you can't come up with a positive thing, then use Neil's, in their opinion.
IYO.
Use Neil's response, in your opinion. So that's our show for today. We want to know, hit us up on our Instagram page, Turra Company, and let us know, how does your self-talk go in your life? Do you instantly go to negative and stay there? Do you go to negative for 2 seconds and come back? We love to hear from you, so let us know. Let us know how you handle your self-talk. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on all our social medias. And we will see you on the next episode.
Adios. Okay, bye.
Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. We look forward to you joining us on the next episode. Until then, be inspired and enlightened.